The story starts in a small village where, one day, suddenly a rumbling happens, leading to the opening a rift in the cemetery. From there, an old man appears and says that he was once the king of a kingdom, but the kingdom got underground due to the mad magician. He tells them that if anyone defeats that mad magician, he will give all his treasure and his kingdom to that person. After saying these words, he vanishes into thin air. Then the scene changes, and we see a dragon attacking the adventurers. The adventurer leader says to hang on a bit since they have already come this far. Then he mentions that they came prepared, and a boy attacks the dragon. All the adventurers start attacking the dragon, but the man sees that even though they came prepared, they still can't defeat the dragon. The dragon was crushing them like ants. Then the man says that everyone lacks speed and techniques. He mentions that before coming here, they lost the route once and already used their food and equipment. The man was busy with his thoughts when the dragon uses its tail and knocks everyone. The girl comes and says that the man, whose name is Leos, is going to be our protagonist in this story. We learn that this girl is his sister, and she pushes him so he can't get eaten by the dragon, but she gets caught by the dragon instead of him. This shocks him, and he is terrified, thinking that all of them are defeated by a single dragon. They can't do a scratch on him, whereas we see his sister using a spell, and she said to her brother that he should run away. Suddenly, a white light comes, and then we see Leos on the ground. It looks like his sister used a teleportation skill on him to save his brother from the dragon. He wakes up, and an elf girl comes running to him, saying his name. She asks if he is awake, and it looks like a magic spell helped them to get out of the dungeon. She says that Phelan is the only one she can't find. It seems the main lead sister's name is Phelan. Listening to this, he tells her that she is eaten, and she helped them to get out, but it looks like she didn't make it. But Leo stands up and says that his sister is still alive in the dungeon, so they should hurry and save his sister. The girl stops him, saying that they left everything in the dungeon, so basically, they don't have food, money, and any equipment to travel now in the dungeon. Then a voice comes from the back, and we see a boy named Chilchuk saying that they have already lost 2 members. He shows them their resignation letters and says that they got a better offer from the other party, so they decided to switch their party. Leo says that to explore the dungeon, they need money and food, so they can buy equipment and hire some companions. So, he thinks if he sells his current equipment, then he can get money with them. But it looks like this will still not be enough to calculate their total expenses for their party. Leo says that his sister will get digested if he stays here for a long time. Leos asks them if they have heard that a person revives someone from the shreds, or if they have heard anything like they have revived them by the poop. Yuck, what is the main lead thinking? They say that they don't know that. The girl's stomach growls, and she says that since they are short of money, they should go to the market to get some food. They came to the market where the girl starts thinking about what she should eat on the main street, and she imagines many dishes in her mind. Then she aims at the pub, saying their soup dumplings are the best. Leo says no to her and says that they should hurry and go in the dungeon. He tells them that they should also leave his party. This shocks them, wondering why he wants to kick his party members. Leo says that he will sell his equipment, and then he will enter the dungeon and try to save his sister. He tells them he can't put them in danger since this was his fault, on which the elf girl shouts, saying she also cares about Phelan, so they are not going to leave him, and the little boy also agrees with her. The moment they say their words, he puts his hand on their shoulders and asks them if they really mean that. They say yes to him but were confused since he asked them like this. The scene shifts. Then Leo says to them they will secure theirs by entering the dungeon. He says that in the dungeon, there are many monsters, so it means their lives a whole ecosystem. Then he explains to them the life cycle of the monster of carnivores and herbivores. This reminds me of my school where we learn the ecosystem of the life cycle. After explaining, he concludes that humans can also eat in the dungeon. Then they enter the dungeon, whereas the girl asks him if he is telling them to eat the monster in the dungeon. Leo says that they will also eat monsters and to think about their adventure. He tells them that there were many times they saw tasty monsters, but the girl imagines an undead and says that there is no way that she will eat them. But Leos doesn't listen to her, bluntly says that there are many people who hunt monsters for food. The girl tells him that they are criminals and they get hospitalized every time they eat them. Leo says that she was determined to do anything to save Phelan. Then the girl replies, saying she doesn't agree in eating monsters. They argue with each other and the little just sees them. Then suddenly a group of adventurers run towards them, saying run away. They were attacked by a monster. But our main lead party was not this weak, and the girl just takes her stick and hits the monster's head. She says that they are dungeon newbies and not cut out for the dungeon if they can't even handle this monster. Where she sees that Leos picks the monster that looks like a mushroom and says that they should have this for lunch. Looked like he was serious when he said he will eat monsters too. The girl just screams. She rejects that idea and dances through the floor, saying this cannot happen, and she will absolutely not eat it. The little boy asks Leos if these are even edibles, where Leos takes out the book of food guide that is suited for beginners. They are in shock, but Leos was already salivating. But then he heard some sound, and he says that this sound belongs to the scorpion. He runs towards the voice. Scene shifted, and we see that in the dungeon, many people come and go for adventurers and merchants. They even relax there. They say that monsters came from the depths of the dungeon. Till now, it's unclear whether a forbidden spell has transformed or made this dungeon, or they were simply summoned from the monster world. Leos takes his sword and covers his sword with clothes and puts it in the hole of the wall, where Scorpion grabs his sword, and he pulls that and kills the scorpion. The little boy named Chilchuk tells Leos that he was looking for a way for a long time to eat monsters in the dungeon. Leos blushes and says this doesn't mean he doesn't want to save his sister. He is changing the topic. What a weird man he is. He is blushing to eat monsters, not for some imagination or thinking about some sexy lady. Then he says that he always leaves monsters and wonders what their taste would be. Chilchuk says that he is a psychopath. Then they sit and try to make a fire to boil water. When the girl asks him how they will eat them, Leos says they should use normal ways, like how they cut their normal vegetables or anything. As soon as he tries to cut the monster, he can't cut through their inner resistance. But after thinking about how they killed mushrooms by cutting them in half, he cuts them and takes the scorpion and puts it in the tub. Whereas the girl asks about poison, and Leos replies this is safe to eat. Then he eats, but the taste of the monster was not tasty and he puked after tasting it. Where suddenly a dwarf came and says to wait and says that they are doing or making them wrong. Then he shows them, telling when you eat this monster, you should cut its pincers, head, and legs. Also, cut the body into pieces to eat them. This will help to make juice from their flesh. The man also explains how to use the mushroom also, and their feet are tasty, so they should keep their feet. Seriously, mushroom feet are tasty? This thought is not mine but Leo's. He says that this pot is small, so they should use his pot. Who is this man is being very generous to them. Seeing all the ingredients, he still thinks something is missing. Then stands and picks some grass and roots of the tree and puts them. But the girl said what he is doing. She is now ready to taste monster, but she can't just eat anything. Then Leo says the girl's name, and the girl's name is Marcel. Finally, we have her name, and she asks him who he is. But suddenly a slime came on top of her head and covers her face. She can't breathe now and she thinks that looks like she will die by the hands of slime, even though they are weakest among the monsters. Someone please tell her that slime is not weak, and she should go and see Rimuru for that. But the dwarf man came and saved her, and he says that if they now basic, then they will be safe from getting killed by the monster. He also explains to them how slimes are storing their food and about their digestive fluids. He mixes slime in hot water and tries to dry them in his invention, which is probably slime drying. Leos asks him how does he know that much, whereas he replied that he is here for 10 years, and since he is exploring this dungeon. He checks his food and waits for some time, then his dish was ready, which was a huge scorpion and walking mushroom hot pot. Then he gives them, and they taste it, and it was very delicious. Whereas Marcel was not eating but listening to them. She was very curious, and she asks them that she also needs it. Then she tastes it and says that this is very delicious. Chilchuk says that he doesn't know that in the dungeon this tasty food can be made. Leos asks that man since he doesn't know his name, where he replies that his name is Senchi, and his name means researchers in Dwarvish language. This looks like it's a language for dwarf people. Leos also introduces himself and his party members. Shinchi asks whether they are on the mission or anything, where he replied yes and tells that his companion has got eaten by the dragon, which intrigued the interest of Shinchi, and he asks if he is talking about the red dragon. Red dragons spend most of their time sleeping. Then Leos says yes to him where Shinchi says if it's alright. He also wants to join them on their journey. Leos accepts him where Shinchi was excited to see Red Dragon and starts thinking about what he would make if they kill the dragon. He's more maniac than Leos. Listening to him, they stood there silently and think it's okay to eat him since he has already eaten her companion, but didn't say anything and started walking. Then they go to the second basement floor, where we learn that this is a spire of a golden castle which is located in the deep underground. Since this dungeon is made by the curse, Marcel strips from the gap of the bridge, and Leos helps her to stand up. And he says that looks like everyone is tired, so let's take a break here. Shinchi asks Marcel if she is hungry. She says no, but Leos says to Shinchi they should go and hunt the monster to make dinner. Marcel says she is fine eating monsters as long as they are edible. They start thinking what type of monster is here, and Leos takes out his guidebook and sees in it and tells the monster name. But Marcel rejects them because they are very gross, and asks him if there isn't any normal birdie or anything. Leos says to Marcel that there is nothing free in this world. He is giving her a reality check, and says she should enjoy this life. Shinchi says that there are some fruits that they can eat or some plant. Then we see the plant which is looking dangerous and gross. The reaction Marcel gives is what exactly any normal human will give to them. They are man-eating plants. Leos explains to Marcel that this plant just kills some rat and nothing more. They don't usually kill humans. It's because they can't digest fastly. Then Chilchuk also says not to worry since they have people to retrieve the dead bodies in the dungeon if they found one. Then Leos and Shinchi say that they should cut this plant. Marcel says to them to move because they are in her ways. Look like she is going to show them her power. She tries to use the spell but Shinchi tells not to shout. But suddenly that plant awakens and ties Marcel upside down, and she screamed. Then Shinchi explains that this plant attacks only when there is a voice or any danger in him. Marcel was screaming, and she shook and touched the other plant, which opens, but she sees a dead body in the mouth of the plant. She says that didn't they tell them that there aren't many dead bodies? Where Leos tells her that she will not get killed since this plant doesn't kill and they are just parasites. She screamed, and Leos takes out his sword, say to Marcel to stay still. He cuts the root of the plant in one slash and saves Marcel, and asks whether she is okay. She says to him that she is okay, but then he asks how does she feel when she was being tied. He starts explaining about the plant and their attack pattern. She sees him in a very disturbed way and stares at him. Now they have collected all the fruits and plant they will make. Then Shinchi starts his process for making them, show them how to cut the fruits and how to cover them and boil them in the pot. He says to cook them a bit in a pan, then their dish is ready. Now he has made tart. He gives them and says that the coating of this is non-sticky, so if they want then they can leave it. Chilchuk eats and says it's more like a salt flavored, but still, it's delicious. Leos also tastes it and tells Marcel to eat it since they were tasty. Marcel tastes it, and it's very delicious for her. And she started saying how they make them and all. Whereas Leos says look like she is more curious and interested in tasting the monster. She screams saying stop that since she was just casually asking about them. Then we see they clean their utensils and ask what they will do about the dead body. Then they hang the body where everyone can see it, and Chilchuk says it looks like an execution site. At night, Leos says Marcel had a nightmare that night and he thinks about the dungeon where it's a rule to be eaten or get eaten. And since there is no hierarchy, it's simple here, it's an environment where the fittest are fit to survive here. Here eating is privileged for those who live here and eat dungeon food.
How was the video? We hope it was good. If so, please check these videos. Also, please comment down your thoughts and your suggestions for future videos. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing now to show the support to our channel. We hope to see you soon with another video right in this channel. Have a nice day.